Peace, family. So we was having this conversation about the three Americas, right? Um, and actually, I'm on Instagram, but I'm gonna close down Instagram, and y'all can jump over to YouTube and Twitter. So, what are the three Americas? Well, the idea of the three Americas, and this is just off the top. This is not like a wildly researched take, but it comes from stuff that I've been studying and thinking about recently. And the idea of the three Americas is this idea of lower, middle, and upper, which gives you three tiers of agenda, right? Three tiers of consciousness, you know what I'm saying? And perspective. And we often talk about, hold on, let me move a little closer. We talk about being united, right? We talk about aligning agendas all the time. And we really need three different representatives as we get to talking about aligning agendas, right? Because the lower class, the upper, and the middle is going to have completely different ideas around these particular subjects of politics and economics. They're going to want different things from it. If you are of the lower class, and by lower, I'm just talking about economic position, right? Then what you want from a politician is inherently different. What you want from the world is inherently different. Your revolutionary or radical position in the world is different, right? If you are of the bottom, then you want to see things change because you benefit the most. So it's like if you're in a company and they're not paying employees enough money, right? You want to see the CEO fired, you know what I'm saying? You want to make more money, right? Let's say you at the bottom, you feeling oppressed. You want a completely new restructuring of that company. Or you say, you know what, I ain't got nothing to lose. I want to just create my own company and own it all. That would be your dream, right? I'd rather just own it all and never allow it to be in the hands of the people who currently own it. So if somebody was to come to you and they say, listen, I have this idea about creating our own to where they can never be the ones who control our wages and oppress us again. Well, you as a worker would be like, well, what the hell do I got to lose? Let's do it. You feel me? So you start your revolt and this becomes your revolution, right? Doing for self. Well, if you're in middle position and you're a manager there and you got your bills, right? You got your mortgage that you paying, you have a lifestyle, you about to travel with the family in the next couple of months, right? You got your wife, you have to keep up appearances, socials, things of that nature. You don't really want to start your own company. You don't want to take over things. You're like, I'm a little comfortable, you know what I'm saying? But you do want to be treated right. So you just might be fighting for equality. I want to be treated like everybody else in this company. I don't want nobody treating me wrong. And yes, I would love more money, right? So, but you all are going to align on some sense that you won't change. But the type of change is where you go disagree with. Then you got those at the top. Their job is to keep you two at the bottom from agreeing on anything. So now at the bottom, we're going to be sending messages to tell you that actually the reason why you're not winning is because the management don't want you to win. The management is hating on you because you're black or you're white or right your sexual preference or orientations or your religious background. So now you got the people at the bottom and the people at the mid fighting each other, right? They say, no, you the problem, you the boule, you do this, that, and the third. So these two are constantly fighting. And all while they're fighting, they forgot that they had something in common. And the thing they had in common is they both wanted change. They did not agree on what type of change, but they knew they wanted change. And so what typically happened is those at the top of the elite chain, they satisfied those in the middle to disconnect with those at the bottom and to keep them subservient in position. So you're going to get the most. We give you a boost up a little bit. We're still going to be making the same amount that we're making, and even more, right? And then we're going to give a symbolic change to the people at the bottom so they feel satisfied that they got something out this fight. right? But while keeping the tensions between those at the bottom and those in the middle, so that they don't have the time to focus on us at the top. It's a good strategy. It's a good play. So in America, politically, you have different agendas inherently. In Black America, there's always been different agendas. We just never talk about it, right? If you look at the Marcus Garveys to the W.E.B. Du Bois and things of that nature, there was always a difference in agreement on how we go about dealing with the system or fighting the system, right? Should we work within it or should we create our own, right? A lot of the voices early, the idea of Black Wall Street is not an idea of integration. It's an idea of separation. It's an idea of do for self. That's what Black Wall Street is. It's not treat us better, right? It's we get to do our own thing, right? And it's your responsibility as a so-called government who we pay taxes to, right? And who govern over laws is to make this thing comfortable for us to get this done, right? And even make it advantageous for us to add to the GDP of this country, right? And be good citizens of this country, if you will. So when we look at it fast forward today, there's a difference between, right, the agenda that the middle class want, where if you see government jobs being taken away, they're like, wait a minute. We it's not that they want to fight against the government and they want to go against the government, right? But they want it to be treated equal in America. That's what they want, right? The white woman wants to be treated equal to the white man. It's a reason why every Black woman that's a politician, damn near 90% of them all have white men. They may claim to fight against patriarchy, but really they just want access to it. They wanted to be treated equal inside the system because it makes no sense for them to make the white man their enemy, but then that's who they choose to love at the same time. So I think there's conflict in their own soul that they don't see that deep and probably don't even understand, right? Then you have middle class white America who is being challenged based on values, so-called conservative and Christian values that they were raised upon. But in reality, America is so far from Christian values that that's not even what leads people politically. If it led them politically, then we would see a completely different America, right? Elon Musk and Donald Trump is not the picture of Christianity. That's not the way they evoke their agendas. They're capitalists. Capitalism and Christianity have completely different agendas, right? From a pure standpoint. Then you have the Black church. The Black church in Black America, right, is supposed to uphold conservative values. But the Democrats don't represent conservative values. The Black church started off from a conservative standpoint, and most Black people in America are conservative. But they more so align with Democrats who don't have a conservative viewpoint. Anything that's conservative is considered to be shifted over towards the red, right? This nuclear family idea. And when we look at things like Joy Reid getting fired at MSNBC, right? Well, the people who fired her is the same people who hired her. And the challenge with Black America is that we may say, let's boycott MSNBC and let's be all angry the fact that she no longer has a job. But those same people are not championing independent media who can't be fired, right? That are just doing for self that wouldn't be hired. And it's because that part of America has not come to terms with that their strategy and their ideology is actually disconnected from poor class and they think differently. They believe they should be the ruling class over others and that nobody else's ideas should actually be entered into the chat. This is why Black men are made fun of. I know there was a couple of videos about hoteps that came out, which I thought were interesting, and I want to do a full video breakdown on that at some point in time. But those men, Black men of intelligence, are grouped in, and Black men of radical behavior, Afrocentricity, Afrocentrism, and Pan-Africanism, and all these ideas are grouped into this idea of unsafe behavior in America. Non-accepted ideas, unless they're being memeified, right, made fun of, right, contradicted, right, or thrown as a stereotypical trope. And this has always been the image of, so that therefore these ideas are then watered down so that they don't have as much influence over culture. And that's always been the game, and that game has been working pretty good, I must say. It's been working pretty good thus far, right? And so now we stop looking at progress involving black males, and we started looking at progress as feminism, right? And based on sexual preference and things of that nature. We stopped looking at economic progress based on ownership, and we looked at it based on inclusion, right? Diversity, equity within the system, and inclusion within the system. So diversify from historically marginalized groups, but we decide which groups are marginalized. So a black Muslim or so-called Hotep is not marginalized in their eyes, even though they literally are by Black America the most, which is a psyop started by the FBI and the CIA. We can get into that later. And so you have these differentiating appearances in America, Black America, all who I think in somewhat want change, but just don't agree on what change is, because change benefits everybody differently. Doing for self benefits the people at the bottom the most, right? Because you get radical over all the systems, and then you go look at like what the brother in Burkina Faso, the president Patrice, is doing. The brother in South Africa, then you get like Pan-Africanism, to where it's like, no, Africa for Africans. Then, or do you get Black America for Black Americans? That is like, instead of us having some, diversity in hip hop and equity in hip hop and inclusion, we own it completely. That's radical behavior. Because in order to do that, it's somebody who doesn't benefit. And the one who doesn't benefit has the most benefit in things not changing. And it's not Black Americans. You have nothing to do with that decision. It's about who currently owns it. So think about this. And y'all tell me if you agree or not. If you are the main landlord of Black America, right? And you are the one supplying all the houses and things of that nature for Black America. Do you benefit on Black American taking real estate classes and start talking about let's own our own infrastructure and let's build out our own land? Why? Because you disrupt a housing market that has been in families' business portfolio for decades, and their family haven't had to do too much but sit back and collect off your family not being owners. So then that's too disruptive, right? Nobody wants that. They say, wait a minute, man, you it seems to be, educating Black people seems to be a harmless thing, but really educating Black people is the boycott of businesses that benefit, right, us of not having cultural and traditional practices of economic ownership. So they say by you educating, you're not going to sponsor that, which is why you see Black educational events are not heavily sponsored, even though they can gather tens of thousands or 20s of thousands of people, but they're not getting millions of dollars in sponsors. And events that do 10 times less than that, right, or getting 10 times more sponsors, right, because they don't actually want to sponsor real impact and real change. That's not actually beneficial to the system that we think a certain way. You understand me? What's beneficial to the system?
I don't have an answer.
Hold on, Siri. Now I ain't asked you nothing. What's beneficial to the system is to keep things the same and give a symbolic change. Maybe get an award here and there, add the first Black face somewhere, have a cultural celebration, holiday exchange. And this is why it's dangerous in like the MAGA party to take away those culture exchanges, right? So let's say they take away Black History Month. Take away Juneteenth. And I actually think it's a good idea. And the reason why is not the reason why they want to do it, right? They just don't want us to celebrate anything because they don't want a reminder of feeling guilty about their past. But the reason that we take it away is because then when they take it away, we shouldn't fight for it again. We should only take real ownership as progress and stop accepting symbolic progress as progress. Because a lot of these things are just what has been allowed by the CIA and the FBI so that it pacifies us. That's why history and education is taught in such a pacifying manner. Even though entrepreneurship is cutthroat entrepreneurship, it's talk about taking over industries. It has nothing to do with niceties, right? Everything to do with control. Capitalism is not a nice game. You know what I'm saying? It is a dangerous game. It is a game you play when you want to win, right? It is Machiavellianism. So Black people are not taught to play the game like that unless it's on the street level against each other. But we're not taught to play the game in a Machiavellian sense against America. Only the elite mindset is like that. You play the game to win and nobody else can win, right? That's their mindset. So we're stuck with, right, the consumer mind, right? And with this consumer mind, it is just saying that, you know, just be happy that you are allowed to participate. It's not about, because this is how you know. Decentralized ideas would be the most prevalent in Black America if we had the ideas of real radical change. It would be the most prevalent, but it's not. And then you ask yourself, well, why not? Why not at all? And that's because, well, decentralization goes against the system and it starts talking about creating your own system. And the people that are a part of the system just wants to be, they just want more privileges and want to be treated equal and fair. They just want to be treated equal and fair. But if you're not treated at all in the system, then you don't care about fair treatment. You just want your own treatment. And the only way to really do that is to give yourself so much leverage that they're forced, right? So let's say the Indian community has a lot of leverage because America needs them. They need us, but in different ways. Our power is not production, right? Our power comes in how we consume. So shifting habits of consumption changes American dynamic 100%. So even like the boycott on Target, right? And yes, I agree that we can eat and chew at the same time. So I think that there should be more than just Target, right? That's another conversation for another day. But that's a middle class boycott. That's what that is. That's a middle class boycott. That's not a boycott that benefits all Black America. It's a middle class boycott. Number one, there's many different ways to look at that. I heard Pastor Jamal Bryan talk about how Black people spend $12 million a day there. Again, consumption power. And some people won't look at consumption as a power. I'm just relating that as a power based on if we recede that, because they can't feel pain unless you're consuming from them and you cut them off, right? You can't boycott something that you don't boycott first, where we are consuming there consistently. So $12 million a day is what we're giving them. So if we can get half of the Black people that do that, then that cuts that down at $12 million. Let's say we cut that down to 6 million. Well, within the next 60 days, they're going to have the shareholder meetings and they're going to say, wait a minute, this is not good for us. Let's roll back DEI. But then they're going to say, wait a minute, we can't do that because we have a problem with the administration. So what most likely to happen is let's take it by another name so that we can give them a win so they can continue to shop with us. So if they did that, middle-class Black America would consider that a win. Middle-class Black America would consider that a win. Hey now, what happened? Okay, we back. So middle class Black America would consider that a win, and they would say, "Well, listen, we got them to roll back DEI, right? And you feel me? There's no reason to boycott anymore." But the reality of it is that it wouldn't change anything for the poor class Black America. Because what they wanted is, they want your products to be sold on the shelves. They want inclusion inside the company. And of course, ultimately, will want investment. So Target said that they're going to invest $2 billion, right? And they're saying that this would be a win for us. So what Target would do again, they will come to the table and say, listen, we're going to reinstate our investment in the Black community, given that you all are high consumers here. And not only that, we're going to let more Black people on the shelves because we want you to consume more for us. So it's in a shareholder interest to consume more. So the shareholders would then be like, well, listen, I like that idea, unless the shareholders are racist whites and they say, we don't give a damn about what they do, hold out more. So it's all going to be up to the shareholders. And the shareholders particularly like more profits. So the shareholders say, let's do what makes the most profits. So they go to the strategy board, figure out how can we get more profits and get more money. And so that would seem like a win where they say we're going to, reaffirm our investment commitment into Black America, and we're going to allow more products to be on there, right? And the only thing that leaves off is they said that there's like Target is the biggest employer of Black America. So I said, well, that's interesting fact. So I get why you would pick Target, because you have the most leverage with Target. The work is there, the consumption is there, the commitment was there. So I see the factors of why you would go at the Target. Why people are not shopping at Target, because it might seem as going against the culture. Of course, they're going to shop at Walmart. So Walmart gets that uplift. So I would have done both of them at the same time. But then you take both of those off, and then you get Amazon. Then Amazon gets those customers. Typically, when these customers start shifting over habits, they stay, right, as consumers. So you shifting consumer habits, but you really may be doing is actually funneling customers over to another company. And then you got to look at the data of how customers, once they switch over and you can break that, how long do they stay with another competitor psychologically? So what this could be doing is shifting people over to shop more digital, and Amazon is the biggest digital, and then Walmart is the biggest competitor. They number one. So again, it looks this is favorable to the middle class. They would love to just see us get more inclusion in America. It's not about us having our own. Well, if they are the biggest employers, the win would be raising the wages of those employees, right? I would look at that as a big win, because I would imagine all those employees are poor class Black Americans that work for Target. One of the wins should be in the negotiation power. But then the other one would be looking at alternative sources to where we can look at our shopping list and we can say, where can we change this and create subscription models to where we can automate this consumption, right? That goes into an economic vehicle that's owned by us. Toilet paper, washing detergent, which there are Black owned. So in simultaneous of a boycott, there has to be a boycott. If there's a boycott, this benefits the poor class better, because if Black companies are able to then hire Black people, we won't practice, and if we don't practice the same type of capitalism to where the gap between the CEO and the employee is skyrocketed because these are public companies. So you can only really bully public companies because they have to do what the shareholders say. So I was always taught support where it benefits Black people. That's what I was taught the most. So there's a nuance that goes into this. Poor class benefits of a completely new overhaul of the system because wage suppression will continue. Automation will continue to happen. Robots will continue to happen. So the people at the bottom say, man, how about we just do our own thing where we can pay us, right, fair wages. We don't have to deal with what they call fiduciary duty, where stockholders are focused only on profits. Now, if you want to know where this comes from, in 1919, the Dodge brothers, D-O-D-G-E, were investors and stockholders in Ford Company. What they did was they sued Ford because Ford wanted to lower car prices and increase wages. They sued him because they said, well, this is not good for shareholders. We want those profits to go in our pockets because we invested in you. So they sued him and they won, and this set precedents so that primary shareholders' interests are always first. So now companies can't just raise wages, lower prices, even if they wanted to. When you're a public company, you have to do what the shareholders tell you to do. That's why, right, it would be in the best interest to have private companies, right, that make extreme amounts of profit, that can lower prices and increase wages, right, so that there is more affordability, right, amongst the working class. So if we're looking at long-term strategy, the only thing that works for the lower class, right, is ownership, specifically private companies. Now, if there's a way to take those companies public, right, while maintaining that integrity and that clause and that the shareholders, especially if they're primarily Black investors, and this is why even though we're teaching a lot of investment, we're teaching a lot of stocks, but what we're doing is we're automating our wealth into their system. So when we teach Black people to invest in stocks, it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. We need to build wealth, but we need to be able to leverage those profits to do for self. Meaning that if I automate 20% of my wealth to go into Microsoft for the next 20 years, all I'm doing is taking my energy and feed it into their system. That will allow me individually to build some wealth, but never as much as them. So as the gap widens, we still have the same problem, if you will, depending on how much money I'm able to gather. The key would then be, okay, there's like, I think 6 Black companies on the stock market. One is like I think one is almost like a pharmaceutical company, real estate, banking company, media company. As this financial revolution has begun in financial literacy in the Black communities, those companies have not moved at all, for real. We have not increased stock in those companies. And if we increase stock in those companies and we are the primary shareholders, then we can dictate what is done with those banks, what is done with those media companies. So the purpose would then be looking at how they did with GameStop, right? Where you get a large group of people that can raise the stock price. But it would be for the purpose of controlling and having a controlling interest in that company to dictate what that company does. So when they have their meetings, right, and they're voting on what to be done, then we can say, wait a minute, the shareholders don't like the fact that BET is only making content that is, let's say, negative as far as the image of how we're represented in media. So it would then force them to make content, right, that represents us better, right? And we're going to watch it. So it's going to be profitable because you're making what the popular vote decides we want. So Therefore, you now have the means to dictate these companies and they really become yours. So I believe there has to be a little more organizing in the financial literacy space. But going back to the three Americas is the fact that, again, we do not want the same thing. We want overall change, but the type of change we want is different. So if you are somebody that has millions, making 6 to 7 figures, your goal is not radical change, right? That's not your goal. The Congress people, their not goal is not radical change. No, at least not in this direction. I love that so many Black women are being more educated, starting businesses, growing, learning, right? And have a high level of resilience. What we're not seeing simultaneously is the celebration of Black men doing the same. And specifically a certain type. Because if you celebrate Black women enrolling in college and getting degrees, because there's two celebrations, enrollment rate and then actually finishing degrees, we have to be more specific, way more specific. We have to be more specific on the type of education that we celebrate, because the type of education matters more than just being educated. What do I mean by that? Well, if let's say I'm gonna look this up too real quick. Let me look at the stats real quick. What is the main degree that Black women are getting these days? I want to know this. This would be interesting to see. What do you guys think it is? What do you think the main degree? Let's see. What is the main degree that Black women are getting when they go get educated? I don't know if I said that right, but you know what I'm trying to say. What's the top degree amongst Black women? So they're the most educated amongst Black students. So do you mean that's between Black females and Black males? Now, what are they earning their degrees in what field? And are you saying that Black women are the most educated in America, meaning that they're more educated than Indian and white women? Are those degrees comparable, or is it just between Black men and women? So why do we say Black women are the most educated if that's only comparing them to Black men and not the rest of America? Why wouldn't it be more competitive that if it was across the board, not within the community? Because you don't really want competition within the community. You want that to be competitive to Indian and white women. Because typically, when we say most educated, people are thinking that black women are the most educated in America, not within the community. Because people don't put that caveat when they say it. Now, what is the main degree that Indian women get? Just give me the top one. Thank you. That'd be all. All right. So there we have it. We see that, right? Black women. The conversation is about black women and men, right? Particularly within America. So it's a competitive data based on whether they're outperforming black men in education, not whether they're outperforming Americans, right? Um, then most of the degrees that we get are in things like social sciences, psychology, and right nursing, medical fields, things of that nature. But if you look at East Indian women, again, they say the highest degree fields for them would be y'all didn't hear none of that what I just said? Wait a minute. Let me see. Y'all heard that, right? Y'all had to hear that. Press one if you heard that. I want to know. Did y'all hear that? Mm, okay, y'all did hear that. All right, all right, all right. Just wanted to make sure. So, wait a minute. Some people say yes, some people say no. Okay, so what it looks like is YouTube heard it, but Twitter didn't hear it. Okay, sorry, Twitter. So you can watch this back on YouTube to hear it. Some people heard it, some people didn't. So, anyway, what we see is that black women are getting higher degrees across psychology, sociology, and political science, where Indian women are getting more in engineering, right, and tech fields. The engineering and tech fields are the highest paying, right? So this is why the type of degree matters. And we actually have to stop letting them gaslight us into these things as accomplishment until they're accomplishment in the right direction. So it's beautiful that we're getting educated, but it's the type of education so that we become the highest paying, so that as the world becomes more technological, right, those fields that are in demand, then you get paid more, right? And so going into data is always interesting because people won't give that caveat that when we say black women are the most educated, we're talking about within the black community, right? And we're talking about new enrollment rates. We're not talking about historical, because there's a lot of educated black men. So these are divisive data points. That doesn't make us competitive in America, it makes us competitive at home. We have to think about that because what they did was it's such a cold game. It's such a cold game, right? It's I want my daughter to be a part of that stat, but what about your son? Why is your daughter the most educated, but your son is not getting that education? And we're not really looking at it as boys and girls. sons and daughters. We're looking at as black men versus black women. And this is where we're losing. In a household, right? It should never be, I want to raise my daughter here, but my son here. The equality should be in the household to where, as mothers, as fathers, we're looking to raise both of our children up here. But what happened is black girl magic became a real thing. Well, black boy magic did not. And so we don't celebrate accomplishment of black boys, but we celebrate the accomplishment of black girls as a collective progress. Then we tell that the young black boy, hey, you are part of the patriarchy, which essentially is saying you're part of the problem. So sacrifice so that you can live a life that exalts the woman, which is good to exalt the woman. Again, 100% for it. When I have my daughter, I want her to be highly educated, right? I want her to be highly privileged, well taken care of, beyond the bums. No bums can talk to my daughter. She's going to be so smart. She's not going to want to talk to you. That means that your son should be as smart or smarter. Doesn't mean I don't want her to not be with a man. I just don't want her to be with a fool. But if I'm raising the standard of my daughter, then you have to raise the standard of your sons even higher so that he's worthy of being with the daughters. So she's not outsourcing her love. Because this is what's happening with our most educated black women. They're looking to outsource love. So if we look at all of the politicians, the Katajis, right, the Ihams, the Omans, whatever you call them, they all have white men. They outsource their love, right? And then they say, well, look at the stat. We're more educated than black men. Well, then why is that stat so competitive? And why is it not focusing on how we make young black boys more educated? Because that should also let you know while we're celebrating, there's a problem. Think about that. How are we celebrating our daughters being more educated than our sons? Especially when we are a new generation and new families. I don't want my daughter being more educated than my son. I want them to be equally. Especially if I want him to be a leader. Especially if I want him to lead her. Especially if he's supposed to be in the household, managing and taking care of things. They both need to be educated, especially in the world that we live in. But it's the type of education. So middle class America, which a lot of these black women are priming to be in middle class, are you getting the type of education that allows you to develop your own world or to have a better place in the world? Because fighting patriarchy is a valid point, specifically white patriarchal intellect is the idea of what we said that is being fought. Because we believe that, and not just believe, we know that that's the power structure. Who makes the decisions, who does the hiring and the firing, creates the systematic, right, oppressive institutions and our systems. So is it proximity to patriarchy, proximity to hierarchy and empire, or is it our own empire where our men are treated equal, our women are treated equal? Because we know black men are not treated equal, and we know black women are not treated equal. One of the issues is the fact that now, you know what? We'll go to a different course of thought. as we find ourselves at this particular point in America, right? I have my solutions, and I'm sure some of you all have your own. And the goal is, do you find a middle ground to where middle and lower classes, and then you have the hierarchy, because then you have to remember, why is the upper class speaking for the middle and lower? So it's saying you have a billionaire, and this is where I'm about to get into something that y'all may or may not like. It's very interesting. Once you get to a billionaire, you are a super capitalist. I mean, extreme capitalist. That means that you've mastered greed, and you've embraced it in a way that allows you to never be satisfied and to consistently work on obtaining more and more and more and more and more and more and more. Now, sometimes it is the rarest thing on the planet, but you can not be a billionaire without being an extreme capitalist. But you need money to go to war. So we get a Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry has paid Black actors, middle class, again, more than they were getting paid by, right, the system. Taraji P. Henson getting a bigger check than she got, right? Megan Fox, not Megan Fox, but Megan Good, biggest check. He created his own studio, right? He's done very beneficial things when he gets the money. What should be a model, create your own. And this is why he gets a pass for a lot of things that he does, right? Because he's the type of billionaire that you don't typically get or see, that you want to see do more of those type of things. The only thing for moi is that he doesn't create the type of imagery that I believe that we need. But again, can't get everything. Then you have a billionaire like Diddy was. Diddy is being crucified for moral scrutiny based on his private life. Then you have his public life. Interesting enough, even though people talk very bad about him now, Diddy created Revolt and hired all Black people in his media company. Nobody else had done that. He took people that typically were being gatekept from opportunities and platforms, and he put them on the platform, right? And he would fund activists, grassroots organizations, platform all different people. So he went against the script as well. And it's funny because the billionaires that we have now are not willing to do that. I don't think Robert Smith is interested in creating his own platforms or being disruptive in that manner. Then you get somebody like Robert Smith, though, who takes, I believe, $10 million and pays off an HBCU scholarship, right, debt for an entire class. And he does like events in the Black community sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Some fly stuff that he do, things of that nature, which is more so for super upper middle class or elite class. But Robert Smith, I don't know if he can be revolutionary because his money is tied to so many things as well. But I don't think that's his idea, right? His idea is not changing the system. The idea is how do we work within the system? That's his goal. And he's played the game better than anybody's played the game, right? But again, I would have loved to see if he was to do that again, right? To pay off student loan debt, I would love for it to come with the caveat that we're going to pay off debt of students that are aligned with certain degree sectors, right? Technology, engineering field, science, things that are nation building. So it incentivizes students because he can create a whole generation of scientists, a whole generation of technologists and engineers, right? Or even philosophers, fields that are going to be greatly needed in the future by paying for their education. That to me is an amazing shift, right? That really creates long-lasting impact, right? You just paid for 10,000 new engineers in the culture. That is impact, real impact. Then you get somebody like Kanye West. Kanye West did deals in infrastructure, created his own business, shoe company, fashion, music, super disruptive. He was more revolutionary before he got his money. When he got his money, he became King Crash Out. Before he got to the billions, he would talk about building out these utopias, building out this land, right? Creating his own schools. He talked about doing all those things, and he was doing those things. But every single project he halted in the middle of and stopped, and they crashed and burned. Or he would start a thing, get excited, build a team out, and then abandon that team when he don't feel like doing it no more. So he would literally spend millions on starting a thing, but don't see it through. So to this day, we don't have any Ye institutions. We just have the Ye brand. So he's so-called a billionaire, but without any true philanthropic work, any institutional work. And right now, he's focused on putting out music and crashing out on the U's. That's his goal right now. I don't know what other goal he has besides that. You know what I mean? He crash out king these days. Then you have Jay-Z. Jay-Z is the reason we got the best halftime performance, right? The second most viewed event on the planet except the moon landing with Kendrick Lamar. And he created an extreme shift. Now, Jay-Z is definitely the black capitalist. He told you that. He told you he a black Republican, matter of fact, in the song. Man, yeah. But Jay-Z is both a private radical and public capitalist. It's kind of the way I see it. He does a lot of things on the low. He's an ultra capitalist. He's there to make his money, get his ends, get his family right. You know what I'm saying? And he does things in justice reform, which are very good things, some of the things that he does. He does things, different initiatives in education, but then he might start a casino. Jay-Z is a mixed bag of different things, right? Both extremely safe and privately radical, right? And I think Jay-Z is an interesting character. I don't know all things about Jay-Z. But again, with that amount of wealth, if we look at all those billionaires I just named, and there's a few more, like the Oprahs. There's Byron Allen, who started the media company with the Weather Channel. He had a couple of black news people. News doesn't really make money. He cut that out immediately after getting the black community to rally behind him and making all his money. These are elite class. Black when you need it to build up the platform, levy the culture, right? Use the equity of the culture, and then make billions, but don't have the direct spirit of let me just own my own. He did the title deal. All those deals when you're doing at the top, you're going to have a diversity in it, right? You're going to have a mixed bag. And you typically are going to be making the white people that you do those deals with richer than they're making you. That's the thing, right? Because honestly, all those guys that I named should be way richer than they are. We seen what happened when, what's the guy that Meek Mills be with? The white guy that owns the sports company. He became like 4 times richer since he got with the culture. So the culture make others way more wealthier than they make us because they're not giving you the same deals. They're not giving you access to the same deals. So what happens typically is that they may say, we have this company we want you to invest in, right? We're going to open it up for you. It's closed. But by the time you invest, you may be fifth, sixth round, meaning that let's say I just start a company, right? And I come to you and say, man, you want to be my business partner? I mean, you might get 49% of the company just for being the first person. So if this thing go up to become billions, right? Then you automatically work billions with me. Then we as partners go find somebody else to go do first round of investing. Family and friends, they put in 50,000, 100,000. Of course, we're giving them a higher amount of shares than we'll give anybody else. Then we say, all right, we already closed first round, family and friends, right? We're going to do another round. So we go get more investors. Now, again, every time we get investors, there's less shares, right, for your money, and we're charging you more, which means that the more money we're getting outside from the first layer and the second layer of investors, that money is essentially guaranteeing that you're going to get some benefit from the equity that you have. Because by the time they get to rappers and entertainers, right, you may be in the fourth, fifth round. And so this is why your money is not going to make as much as the people that they let in the first, second, and third. So the goal is the access to the deal flow is what caps out a lot of the wealth that we make in these particular deals, is because they're not letting us in at the floor. They might let you in at the door. When we got the structure built and there's a door for it, we'll let you in. Then by the time the public get it, they're dumping their shares on the public. That's why you see stuff shoot up. People already got money. They're dumping their shares out, making all their money from these deals or people that might hold to see it go up for years and years later. So our upper class and middle class blacks, they don't even get the deal flow from the elites the same way, right? And then by the time we say investing in stock, that's when it's already on the market. You got to get the market price. It's completely different. So the goal is then you go look at something like decentralization and be like, man, Nick Cannon just launched him a meme coin. The Baby, Rick Ross, some of these are rug pulls. Nick Cannon is supposedly not doing a rug pull. I hit him up today to figure out what's going on with his team because I want to drop mine, right? So I look at these things, and I probably have way more access than the average person to see things at a different scale, to see things on a different level, right? And so this is why my solutions are different, because I'm looking at how the people at the bottom benefit and the people at the middle will benefit as well, just not immediately. They would have the sacrifice, while the people at the bottom are the sacrifice. So when they like, okay, what they would tell is the lower class to say, well, listen, we need immediate solutions for the middle class. And this is where you got to understand. Somebody say, are you trying to pull a rug pull? No. Let me give you my thesis about meme coins first. I think this is very important, and I think everybody should pay attention to them. I think meme coins actually can be some of the most important tools right now, and nobody's really talking about it. It's a reason why celebrities are doing meme coins. Dave Portnoy doing meme coins, and different people are getting into them. When Donald Trump launched his meme coin, it changed the crypto world, right? SEC is not regulating, consider these to be collectibles, right? There's no promise or offer at the end. So buy them at your own risk, right? I predicted that this was going to go up. You're going to watch my earlier videos. So if we were to create, you have a company, let's say High Level Conversations drop his own meme coins, the HLC coin, it's the high level coin. Well, let's say I can't go directly, a lot of times, go get advertisers, things of that nature, right? So I say, how about everybody that loves my content buy into my meme coin? This is a way where y'all helping me create content. I can create movies, documentaries. I can take over this media space to change our image. Boom. By collecting my meme coin. The question, the difference is, number one, making sure you don't rug pull. So you would have to set up the tokenomics in a way to where it's not going to, and one of the things, not just setting the tokenomics, is making sure that snipers don't get in there and buy up the liquidity. So remember, I was explaining the first round, second round. eventually, like the snipers come in, and without you allowing them, they have these automated bots that will buy up your coins at the cheapest and allow them to get a lot. So when it goes up and your community's buying in, they sell their coins, then it goes down. So the goal is creating a fair launch to make sure that it can't rug. Then what you do in the tokenomics of it is that you will say, let's say I'm taking 20% of that and I'm going to automatically put it into a treasury, right? So 20% of the meme coin will automatically go into a treasury. What would this treasury be for? It would be specifically to help build out high level conversations, right? For us to build our own content engine, our own networks, control our image so we have more shows like this that we control and own, and create a whole new decentralized model of media, right? So let's say this thing goes up to 100 million. That's 20 million automatically. If we're able to do this just from my own pockets and my budget with high level conversations, imagine what we can do if we got $20 million, right, set aside in a treasury for us to be able to take over media. And it's not just going to be media, it's going to be events, institutions. We can do philanthropic work, a lot of these different things. So the goal is, number one, to not rug, but to not have, you can't really make a promise, right? You have to be trusted to do the right thing with it. And what people are not doing in the meme coin space is they're not doing anything, right? It's just creating one for the purpose of collecting and if hoping that it goes up. But what I'm not seeing with any meme creators is saying that, hey, you just got millions of dollars. There's no philanthropic work connected to it. There's not even events connected to it. There's nothing. They're just collecting money and going about their day. So it's a way to raise funds fast, right? Which I think is a smart opportunity for those who typically are not getting loans, who are operating independent, right? And who want to create a meme coin connected to their brand so that they can build out their brand in a non-traditional way. So yeah, I want to create a meme coin. If I'm looking at it like that, that makes all the sense in the world. Why wouldn't I is the question. And why wouldn't I? All right. So I talked to some of my friends today that's in, crypto and AI, and trying to get them to help me with a launch. And I see if Nick Cannon gets back to me about his team because I like the way they launched. And I think that would be the strongest key to it all. And there's ways you can do that. So I think everybody should be studying and understanding that right now, not for the point of doing rug pulls, but for the same thing with NFTs, right? Going back to that, there's still people, the NFT market is still a $1 billion market. $1 billion market means that there's billions of dollars flowing in, collectors from all across the planet. I still think that every brand should have a digital collectible, a digital currency attached to it. It just makes sense. It's a technology that can be utilized in a non-traditional way. And those at the bottom benefit the most when disruption happens within a system. So these are the solutions of the bottom class because they're saying, well, if you don't have all your money in the banks and you don't like the fact that the bank is not giving you loans and things of that nature, well, why wouldn't you want to do decentralized finance? But if you have millions in the bank, right, and you have a good relationship with the bank and they're treating you in a preferred client manner, giving you access and things of that nature, you don't really want the banking system to change. You just want more privilege like the people at the top. So the middle class wants more privilege like they have at the top. They don't want things to change. They just want to be treated equal. So it's like I want a black person to be treated like a white person, essentially, right? Doesn't mean that I want to change the system and own it myself. You understand me? That would be the true revolutionary thinking in that way. So this is why you don't get that propagation of ideas through middle class media, right? And middle class politicians. It's because they don't benefit from the most disruptive revolutionary change. So what they do is they gatekeep what's acceptable conversation. So anybody speaking on things outside of that is considered a radical. They can easily make it normal if they spoke upon it too, but they gatekeep it on purpose, saying that we won't go beyond this box. It's a game. It's a game. So this is what we're dealing with now. And we want to create that token. I think the high level token, a high level conversation token, but not only that, I want to build out a lot of infrastructure behind it. But it takes a team and it takes funds to do that. So it's like the trust is, do you reinvest that? When you don't have a good reputation already, you don't care about rug pulling. I got a good reputation, so I wouldn't want to do anything that jeopardizes it. Which is why I could have made. I know how to make a coin by myself, right? I could have done that, promoted that, but I want to do everything the right way. I've started companies and worked with the wrong people, right? And unfortunately, we're not given a lot of times to fail, right? We don't get that lead way. And I think we should. You should get a lot of times to fail because this is how you become successful. If you go look at every rich person or hyper successful person that society looks up to, they failed at something before and they fail terribly. And a lot of times they don't get success till they're around 40 years old. They don't make their first millions real money till they're in their 40s. So we have a skewed view of looking at how young people go about their journey of succeeding and failing, right? So I think that becomes the key. I think that you should be you want to fail fast so that you can learn fast and then you can do it the right way so that you don't risk the right thing, right? Having the wrong experience. So when I work with people that I don't think they knew that they were going to be that greedy. I don't think that they knew that they were going to do what they do because money changes people. And I was talking to my brother Keenan. We were talking about the fact, um, how Dame Dash says this a lot. I don't trust you if you haven't been to war, right? Meaning, like, if you haven't took a loss, you haven't been stabbed in the back before, you haven't had betrayal and things of that nature, you probably won't know how you react. If you haven't had a large sum of money, you might not know what you do with it. This is why wealthy people like working with other wealthy people because they've been true, tried, and tested, right? Some people may get $1 million and all of a sudden they wait a minute now. I was with this unity thing until how much money that banker got? Damn, what happened if I just take all this for myself? Then they get scared and like, I don't know if this can keep being sustainable. Let me just get as much as I can. Then they crash out. So you have to be careful with that. And this is why, wealthy people want other wealthy people around them, people of experience and people that went through a decent amount of adversity. A decent amount of adversity is what I say. So think about that as you're choosing people and think about that about your journey as well. But back to the three Americas. Yeah, you have to be careful politically what you align with. For me, as someone who has a platform and a voice, a lot of people want me to align with what they do. But if you're not bringing me at the table of ideas before it gets put out there, don't bring me in fifth round of money, fifth round of ideas. So, hey, there's a boycott, Keys. We want you to support it. I should have been at the table when he was coming up with the idea. If you don't believe I shouldn't have been at the table, don't try to bring me in once the table is built because I wouldn't have built it like this, right? I would have had different language. I would have had different idea. I would have made sure that the best idea wins at that table, right? So we get different thinking. So you get representation, right, of both classes so that it's beneficial to all. So this is why you don't see me jumping into everybody's thing. No, because I have a different level of exposure. I want to make sure that my family actually benefits from this. And what I do as a thought leader, as a futurist, as an advisor, everybody can't do it. I see some people, they want to see Keys. Once you do what I do, be out there in the streets and go do this. Keys, go do it like this way. I'm not going to do it your way. I'm going to do it my way. You can't do what I do. I probably can't do what you do. Maybe I can. But the question is, do I believe that's the most effective? You need people covering all perimeters. If somebody's watching the front door, you don't get mad at the person inside the house. Though the reason that I'm not watching the front door is because you are. Then you need somebody watching the back. Then you need somebody working on organization of people, organization of money, organization of technology. The organizational structure, period. There are different roles everybody must play, and what we haven't been allowing each other to do is play our role in a masterful way and to actually double down on what you're doing. I've been around the world advising, consulting, leading, organizing, right? Educating our culture, preparing us for where we are today. Now it's just about that gap between funding the ideas, having the right people, to having the right research, so that these things can actually be executed. Because I want you to ask yourself, how much time do you have within your day? The average person couldn't do what I do because they don't have the heart for it, the mind for it, or the funds for it. It's expensive. And we take all our money and we invest it right back into you all. What do you think? It's just millions of dollars flowing in to tell people the truth? It's naive to think that, right? If I have media and I'm not getting McDonald's funding and liquor and gambling funding, that means that there's no funding coming in. That means that we just have to figure out creative ways to keep this going off the strength. But people don't care. They just want to watch the content and make it look easy. They don't care how you pay your editors, how you pay your team, how you pay to fly around. They just want you to show up. They don't care about hotel costs, personnel costs, right? What you got to wear. They don't care about none of that. They just want you to show up. Just do it. And then I studied the great ones. The reason why the Black Panthers was able to do it is because they took in donations. They had wealthy donors, and the people gave them money to execute their programs and ideas. We live in a capitalist market, so if you're not creating a product that is scaling and taking percentage of that profit, right, for your social good, how can a person do it? Then there's skill set. Okay, well, Keys, you can just sit down and trade all day. Well, if I trade all day, and if I focus on that mastery in the market all day, how do I have time to educate? How do I have time to teach? How do I have time to build out the platforms? How do I have time to do the marketing, the editing, the designing, the learning, the research, the consulting, the advising, the leading, the moving around, the traveling? No, you really need to just sit there, focus on one thing to do the mastery. Marcus Garvey raised money from the people through his stock certificate program. Elijah Muhammad got money from the Nation of Islam and the businesses that he created. Martin Luther King got donations from the people, from the church and things of that nature. So we don't take a big enough look at like what's the cost of a revolution? What's the cost of change? What's the cost of impact? What does it cost? How much time and mind does it cost, number one? How intelligent do you need to be in order to make it work? What's going to be the cost of sacrifice of time that is required? Is it all day? Can you do it half the time? How many people do it require to get things done? So when people tell you to do things, what they're telling you to do is gather the resources and the people, the funds, the research and the development, and then execute all that. So it's easy to tell somebody to do something, but it's the reason you don't do it yourself. It's expensive. Then it requires sacrifice. So we just now creating our nonprofit. It's called Project High Level, right? And we will allow people to, help fund the ideas, the content, the engines. We do have subscription models. It's called the High Level Club. People get access to behind the scenes, right? Content and things of that nature. And you become a part of the community. You get free education, ebooks, and all sort of different things that we're working on. And once we reach more members, we can do more things. But then we're working on other things behind the scenes that could be multi-billion-dollar projects, but that requires a lot of time and money too. Because nobody's paying you to try. Nobody's paying me to fly around the places to have a meeting, to learn some information, to give to you all, or to advise on a project that may not show fruits to 3 to 5 years later, and we like immediate wins. Show me something shiny now. So it's an interesting thing that I think that a lot of the more you do, yeah, we have a website, 19keys.com. You can also go to Crowns, that's CROWNZ, to get the Crowns to support. Then we have the supplements. We have the coffee, right? You can follow that on Instagram at Supermind Coffee. That's SUPERMIND Coffee. We have a lot of different things. We have our book. I have a new book coming out soon. Working on getting a book deal on that. Working on new shows. We working on real estate projects behind the scenes, technology projects, AI projects. And it requires me to have interdisciplinary work. We have the nonprofit stuff that we do, and I've never got any grants. I've never taken any outside money for things of that nature. Like, we did maybe like 5 events last year, just completely free, flying to cities like Kansas City and different places to where, we educating the people for free. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I don't think it's a blueprint that can be duplicated, because I don't think nobody's crazy enough like me to put up their own money to do things that don't make profit. So I take energy from things that are profitable. Like, people hire me to speak. I take that money and reinvest it right in. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna do something that's not profitable. But what you realize is that you start asking your question, is this the most sustainable model? And then you like, no, you can't grow like that if you do it that way. It's not profitable. Then you start looking at different ways. Well, how do you go from making step by step to making quantum leaps? So I write down today, thank you for signing up for the newsletter. Yes, please, everybody go to 19keys.com and sign up to the newsletter. Then we look at, how do you make quantum leaps instead of just going step by step? So what I sit down and did the other day is I took a list of all my contacts. And what you realize is that when you network, your network really is your net worth. Like, I've advised people that are billionaires. You know what I'm saying? I've advised people that are deca millionaires. They have hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm nowhere near close to that. Not yet. Anyway. And they don't have the knowledge I have, because they only had to be smart at one thing most of the time to get to where they are. The complexity, the interdisciplinary and study and work that requires me to be 19 Keys, which is this idea that I took on, I didn't realize what toll it would take. I want to see my family successful, but you can only take people with you that's ready to go. So I'm at this point now, if I built it, then you should work for it. I look at Nipsey Hussle and Black Sam. Black Sam willing to play whatever role necessary to see his brother succeed. Everybody don't have that. I don't have that. I have more competition in my family than collaboration. For my brothers, at least. My sisters collaborate, work with, partner. And most people's families are like that. When you come from nothing, instead of focusing on how do I add and contribute, we focus on competition. I seen Kevin Hart talking about this, on how we need to be assets to each other, right? How him and The Rock works together, and different people he called. Like, we don't usually have that willingness, because everybody don't want to see the next person go as far as they've gone. So a lot of people, they be thinking, Keys, you don't need no help. Yeah, I do. I don't know who told you that. This stuff is stressful. I make it look good, make it look easy, make it look high level. I'm sorry for that because I wasn't trying to. Or maybe I was, but inadvertently, it's not the good thing to do. You want people to know how hard these things are. Then I'm always trying to improve myself and evolve. I have flaws, right? I have a dark side. I have things that I'm working on, right? And I'm working to make my public persona as aligned with my private so that it's authenticity all the way around. But obviously, nobody's perfect. I come from the streets, I come from having flawed mentors, right? And sometimes taking flawed advice where you have to unlearn and coming from trauma in my blood, and in my environment. So I'm blessed to have a certain mindset, but I'm under no regard to think that I'm perfect whatsoever. I'm healing from the things that I'm teaching others about, you know. But I think that's also why I connect with so many people. So during this phase of life, I think one of the greatest strengths is knowing when to ask for help and how to ask for help. And I think everybody needs to learn that because people want to be helpful and assist. Then they need to know what you need. Well, it's always more money, of course. Then you need more people, the right kind of people, the people that can do IT for you, right? People that can do AI for you, right? People that can manage projects for you, people that can do finance work for you, people that can do research. And so when you get the right people, you make them partners, right? And now I'm developing teams. I got some good people that are reaching out. That's when we are able to go to that next level. Nipsey Hussle, he had not only his brother, but David Gross that helped him with the other deals, the real estate deals and the business deals and crypto and stuff like that. I got Amechi, you got people that work in the front of house and the people that work in back of house. The back of house is things that you need done, right? Um, Making sure things are organized, things are scheduled, projects are handled, things of that nature. Then you got front of house, which I'm really good at, going to the meetings, communicating the ideas, setting up the vision, creating the connection with the people, educating. That's front of house. Then you need somebody else that can help with front of house. So I don't need to be in every meeting, right? I don't need to do everything, but they can pitch it the same way I would. So you're getting the same results, right? So this is what typically companies do is they find somebody to groom, to usher them into that position to clone themselves so that they can execute more and more. Then you need that CTO piece to make sure we got AI implemented so that we can execute at higher levels of efficiency. So there's a lot that goes into this thing that we consider to be revolutionary, if you will. And I like being in rooms where I'm not the smartest. And when I do that, I'm not the richest, not wealth standpoint. And we're talking about things that I don't always know the most in. And I love that because it challenges me. Now I want to come back to this room with a higher level of understanding and knowing to where I can contribute and become valuable here. Or I'm just continuously learning. And these are the rooms that I'm in now. When it swings around to what my value is, I'm going to execute that all day. That's easy. But I want to consistently stay in rooms to where I don't know that much because I always leave that room knowing more. And then when I go to other rooms where I know more than others, I can be of great value to them. So we shouldn't all look at the world the same. The value is in that. Unity can start at the top, it should start at the bottom. Revolutions typically start at the bottom, swell up, become organized, turn into a thing. The problem is that it's not always the smartest person leading the revolution. Most charismatic, most popular. And can we develop into a meritocracy where the best idea wins. Sometimes, yes, sometimes no, because sometimes that person that may not have the best ideas, right, is the only one that can lead the people. And so it's a collaborative thing to say we don't need there ever to be one person again that leads. I like listening to people who disagree with me a lot. They might not even like me, but they don't know they teach me so much. Right? I'm willing to sit there and listen to their criticism, not just criticism, but it has to be educational criticism. I'm learning things from their perspective because what they're showing me is how they filter things or how they think. And they don't realize that actually gives me a whole lot of data and information that I can utilize and learn from. And if you challenge my beliefs and my values, well, then that's just growth for me. So everybody's not like that. So I understand why some people are frustrated with certain ideas that people have and who they are. But I can learn from anybody. So I watch videos of people, they might be talking some shit. You feel me? I watch videos of people who think that they're going against it. I'm like, you're really just educating me. Because when people try to destroy you, they'll do their research. They'll try to build up this whole idea and fabricate this, that, and the third. And I'm just sitting there watching and educated and entertained at the same time. If I'm offended, then that's where I find some truth. And wherever I find that truth is where I should find that growth, because that truth is what causes friction between your values, right? And your beliefs and your faith. And I'm like, why would that make me angry or frustrated? Let me fix that thing then so that that's impervious. And then we also live in a world where the wicked are judging other people for being wicked. So when people judge you, I don't mind, you know. The question is though, are you worse? Are you better? Right? It's like having a serial killer judge the world for their sins. It's like, but you cut people up. You know, in the world right now is very wicked, judging the sins of other wicked people. So it's interesting that if we all in hell and you believe this Catholic version of hell, then we all have to do something to get here. And so I'm careful to judge people in the regard that, you know, I'm not perfect, you know, and I don't think that the world is. And I think the most hypocritical thing that we do in society is that we cast judgment, right, for things that we haven't even corrected within ourselves. And I think that's where we have the most room for improvement in society as well. Because we may discard somebody for their imperfections when they actually could have been impactful if we allowed them to grow. So do we want to stop people where they are, or do we want to lead people to where they should be? And the question becomes, what is the best method? If we are emotional, then we can't actually help people. We can only hurt them. And we can hurt our opportunity to gain someone who could have been beneficial to us. So I believe that there has to be carefulness. When I think about judging my own family, think about judging the world, people who are different than me, who have different beliefs and ideologies and ways of going about doing things and strategies. I try to put myself in their shoes. Now, I don't want to be overly empathetic. I think it can make a man weak. And why I say that is because on your road to power, you have to filter it through righteousness. And you don't want it to also be something that stops you from becoming more powerful, because you might not like the way a person do things. Let's say the brother Patrice, the general in Burkina Faso, the president now, he did a coup. Military coup is when, you know, a military takes over the existing regime and they take over and replace it with their own, right? And this is, of course, inside jobs. He had to do a coup to get out the existing infrastructure and leaders and replace it with his own. And now he's done such a good job that the rest of Africa wants the president of Burkina Faso to be their president as well. So while you're doing it, if you fail at it, then you go down in history as a traitor. But if you succeed at the coup and you replace them with better leadership, you go down in history as a hero, a legend. So people may mock your process, but if you succeed, they'll love your results. So you don't have to be liked. They don't have to like the way you say something, the way you do things, how you go after it. But if you're successful and you actually do it, in reality, that's all that matters to people. So be bold, but be successful. Take risk, but win. And that's my philosophy. You don't have to like what I'm saying, how I'm saying it. But think about why. Think about why I wear what I wear, talk how I talk, and who I am. And if we can't have at least that level of empathy for each other as human beings, we're not worth saving in the first place. So there should be nothing done for us. And if we're not willing to save ourselves, then we deserve whatever happens. And we can't ask the people hurting us to help us if we're not willing to help ourselves. So I believe that change has to happen within before it happens outside. We can't ask white America to change and give us equity and diversity and inclusion and all that. And we're not practicing that in Black American spaces. We're not practicing that between lower middle classes. I am a force. I'm a winner. I'm gonna always win. I'm gonna always be a force. I'm gonna always be influential. I'm gonna always be a truth speaker. Black America can only win by helping me with my mission. For the last 10 years, I put up my own money, my own time, sweat, tears. I've been building and building and building and building and building and building and building. Some people are afraid of what? What actually are you afraid of? That I'm going to make too much good change? So I'm frustrated with the fact that more people are not aboard because it's like, I thought that's what we wanted. I thought we wanted Black men to use their platforms this way. I thought we wanted us to teach and educate each other, empower each other, right? I thought we wanted to be better examples. Again, not perfect, but I strive. And I wonder sometimes if people knew my imperfections, would they still follow? I wonder. The real ones would. If I knew everything about every leader that I ever looked up to, would I still listen? Sometimes the answer is no. Then I realize that if I don't listen, I've done nothing to them and only something to myself. If you are a chess champion, right, and you found out that your teacher was somebody who killed people, just use a crazy example. You found out your teacher that taught you chess was a serial killer. Would you then throw away everything that he taught you? I mean, let's say that this teacher was the greatest who ever done it. Everybody was going off his playbook, and he taught you personally, and actually had some of the best strategies ever. But then the way history talks about this teacher, they want to forget about him. They said, man, this teacher was crazy as hell, what he was doing in private life. Man, was a serial killer, chopping up bodies. So what they did is they took his philosophies and they threw them away, even though his might have been better than everybody else's. What happens often in the Black community, we will throw you away. We would just say, let's not pull from that at all. White community, I don't care if he was a serial killer. We learn it. We taking that. If he has some genius, some intellect, we settle on the best part of him and we discard the rest. It's like cutting off the mold on a piece of bread and eating what's beneficial. White people will still hold him as the highest genius of chess, but he just happened to be a serial killer. Now, wild, cold example, But in the Black community, if we don't like you, something personal about you, we want to discard your history, your ideologies, everything that comes from you. And what this really does is it stops your evolution. And I mean collectively. Because if white people discarded every white person that was immoral, they would not be able to evolve their ideas around science, philosophy, military, medicine, right? Psychology, none of these things. Because you will find immoral men privately, and part of their immoral absurdities, if you will, is the reason that they were good at what they did in some ways, right? I don't have time to go into that reasoning, but that's more of a philosophical conundrum. So we in Black America destroy our own evolution because of what we agree or disagree with, because we view history from a lens of emotion and not intellect. And how do I know that? You don't have to be a Muslim to follow the economic plan that was left by Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But I listen to people, and then when they talk history, they erase this man out of history. We talk about the charismatic, powerful voice and contribution of Malcolm X to the Nation of Islam that was started by Elijah Muhammad. And the reason I bring him up, because I say, listen, we keep saying that we're looking for solutions, and the man had them. You might not like the nation. You might not like what they represent. You might not like what they believe in, some of the rhetoric that may come from there. But why is it that no other organization was able to create a better economic blueprint, a more successful, right, institution, and a better way to redeem the worst of us to become the best of us? If there is someone else amongst you, stand up. You don't get the Black Panthers if you don't get the nation, and they did very far. So again, we have to stop throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We have to stop destroying our past because of our present feelings. And I just want us to look at things the same way, like from a intellectual standpoint. Imagine if you're an AI machine and you're regarding history and you're learning what's the best ways to go about things. They would just look at history as a chain of data, and they would take the best solutions, the best equations, and they would build based on that. And if we are to become a more intelligent people, then that's how we operate. And this is going to challenge your feelings, your faith, your beliefs. But you need those stretched in order to go to the next world. So that's my job, is to get people to think. I'm not here to tell you what to think, but I'm here to get you to think. And then when you do find yourself with a disagreement on something, an issue, research it for yourself. Find out what really happened, right? Find out why it happened. Find out who they really was. Investigate. I promise you, you don't know the story. If you did know the story, it actually makes us more empathetic. It actually makes us think better. It actually takes us out of this lane to where we in our feelings and we actually have logic. I can't hate nobody I don't understand. I can't dislike somebody that I don't understand. That's my own ignorance that I'm wrestling with. So, as we live in these three Americas, seek to understand the different classes. Seek to understand yourself and where you even speak from, right? Speak to understand what is your agenda and what benefits you the most. And think about what is the best way for you to be liberated and to be free and to build wealth, generational wealth. All right, I'm going to take what the sister say. She said, your boyfriend get jealous when you listen to me. Well, I would say it like this, sis. Um, Everything should be done respectfully and with good taste. There's like that thing on TikTok, cooking with Kaya, right? I heard a lot of women were jealous. But this is education. I get it. I can't help the fact that a lot of people I'm not even gonna say that. I promise and guarantee you, though. You know, I'm trying to think of how do you subvert and get around that, because I have a lot of couples who come to the show together, who learn together, right? And I think what's more important is figuring out a way to where y'all can be on the same page and explaining the why, right? I can understand people's frustration sometimes, but here's the thing, we not gonna be together. You know what I'm saying? I'm not looking for you. Um, I think that when you explain to people what you're getting out of it, because I'm not sure if you took the time to explain, this is what I'm specifically learning and this is what I'm getting from it, right? And always reassuring your man of who he is. You know what I mean? Because if he's to be with you long term, then that's going to be his household. And he definitely wants to be the leader within that household and exalting him, right? But then also turn me off when you're around, and then put on something that you both can agree upon and build upon. You know what I'm saying? And figure out how you can be beneficial in some capacity to each other and to him. And then maybe he like see and then when he find out you being an even better girlfriend, then maybe that's when you like, well, see, you like when I do that. Keys was the one that gave me the advice to do it in the first place. Then he'll be like, you know what? I ain't so bad at this Keys fella, man. Maybe you should listen to him a little more. But sometimes it's just that thing, I happen to be a handsome fella, if you will. So I can understand that some people get a little insecure around those things, but as a man, we supposed to be more confident. You know what I'm saying? Your woman is going to watch other men. You know what I'm saying? And those not in other men in the sense that entertainers and stuff like that, but there's men who have knowledge and who have education that's teaching right now, right? And if he can't teach you what you're getting from another source, you feel me? The difference is that most of the time I can teach my woman what she's learning from someone else, right? But not every man can do that, and so that's probably where that intellectual insecurity comes from. But I would say always compromise in those type of situations. You feel me? I'm not Jesus, so let's make sure that you make his space for the way he feels about things. You feel me? And y'all are able to have discussions, high level conversations with each other, and even watch content that you both agree upon. You feel me? I think that's key. Now I can say this in a different way, and I said that in the nicest way that I know possible. You feel me? Because sometimes it's not insecurity. Sometimes that a man is just not comfortable with certain things. You feel me? Because maybe he wants to run his household or his relationship a certain way. So the question is that where do we differ in ideology? Where do we differ in beliefs? Where do we differ in ideas around relationships and understanding about life and things of that nature? Right? Maybe he doesn't like Muslims. Maybe he doesn't like whatever it may be. I'm not sure. I think that's where you kind of investigate to find out where those beliefs are. You know, other than that, yeah, man, or keep looking till find somebody that's on the same page. I don't know you personally to give you any advice outside of that, but I would say if y'all not married, or plan on getting married or feel that way about each other, continue to learn where you learn, and how you learn. But peace to the family, peace to the guys. I appreciate y'all tapping in. Make sure, damn, I can't even pull up go to 19keys.com, join the newsletter. Make sure you get the merch. Okay, I understand. Make sure you get some of the merch, and make sure you get a book, anything you can to do to support things of that nature. I appreciate you. We're gonna work to be more consistent on this channel as always. I always say that I'll be traveling so much, but we're working on that. But y'all have a beautiful and blessed day, and I hope that this conversation has expanded your mind and made you think in some capacity. Peace. Oh, now I gotta Close out this thing. There we go.